So when I got married the first time, I'll get back there. When I got married the first time, I had no business getting married to my first husband. I mean,
None of us did.
no, I was 17 when we got together. We got married when I was 23. So we'd been together for some time. Our relationship was not healthy. As we as we were together, our relationship got increasingly worse. So it wasn't like it at first it was okay. We were very, young and doing the things and selling drugs and, whatever. And then as we became more controlling and more insecurities. I know that's what it is now and I was accused of sleeping with everybody and their mother, and I've got an infant and a stepson that's 4 with ADHD bouncing off the wall. Like, I'm just going to try to get groceries and keep my brain level. Like, no, I'm not sleeping with the meat man. Like, this is insanity.
Yeah.
And that was a really, really hard time. I mean, I had a baby. I stayed at home because my lifestyle, I waited tables. That's, so I could do that. So I could be at home with the kids during the day and my husband would come home. So I had a lot of time. I'm sure I had postpartum depression,
Yeah.
but it wasn't talked about. That my first child was born in 2001. So, postpartum depression wasn't talked about. I do remember going to see my primary care doctor, and that's where I got the Xanax script. That's where that came into play because I told, I shared they put me on take your pick. I've been on all the different medications. And I l- the situation with my first husband contributed to my mental health a lot. Like, it was bad. And living with someone that's constantly accusing you of things that you're not doing and you're not doing them, but yet you start to question your own reality,
Yeah.
that's a real shitty experience. Like, it's
Mhm.
really, really bad.
Well, there's
And
some narcissism in there when somebody can convince you that you don't even know what end is right and wrong.
yes, and I don't even think that it was it was no matter what I did, it was wrong. It was if I was accused of sleeping with somebody, I'd be like, "Okay, cool, I'm doing that." And he'd be like, "No, you're not." "Okay, then I'm not." Like, I could not
That's
get
classic
it was
narcissism.
so
He
bad.
has to be the one in charge of the argument. Yeah.
Yes. And it would always look like I was losing my mind. Like, and no
Mhm.
matter what, every situation, because like I can only take the weird shit for so long. And I'm gonna snap out and I'm probably gonna look a little crazy. And specifically with him, there was like we would get into it and like throw shit again, the things that I learned that you're supposed to do in a relationship because that's how we love each other.
Right.
I'm gonna throw things at you when I'm mad and we're gonna fight and that's what and then we're gonna get back together and it's gonna be all great. The same pattern of behavior that my
Yeah,
parents
that cycle of abuse and roller coaster.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I did the exact same thing was happening. I was creating that because that's what I thought love was. And so I remember we had got into it. I don't even know what about. And I just remember one day I woke up, I called my aunt and I was like, I'm leaving. My family's like, well, leaving for what? And I'm like, well, this isn't good over here. I've made you all believe that it is, but really
Mhm.
I'm losing my fucking mind. And
Yeah.
my family didn't believe me. Like, they did not believe that this was happening. And so I feel like I stayed longer than because my family didn't believe. I was like, well, fuck, now what?
Well, I think a lot of times families also see it's easier to keep you over here in this because you're easier to manage. But if you leave to do something different or better for yourself,
uh-huh,
that means they have to engage with that.
uh-huh,
They have to do something to either support it or not support it. They have to make a decision on whether they agree with it or not agree with
uh-huh.
it. It requires something out of them. So a lot of times people are like, no, 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 just stay over here because
It's simpler for
it's simpler
them.
for them. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Same. I had the same scenario when I left Steven's dad. I couldn't take the abuse anymore. I
Uh-huh.
was gonna go home to my mother's, and she was like, "What? Oh, no, 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 no. Go fix your marriage."
Uh-huh.
And same scenario. Yeah,
Mhm. I think that and then, you do well, I got kids, that was a big piece of it,
yeah.
and I played all the cards.
Have you considered how hard this is gonna be?
Uh-huh.
And
All the things.
maybe it's easier to stay
Mhm.
because that's what our mother's generation did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know that when I was married to him, I remember, like, a whole mental health thing. I I had a lot of mental health going on at this time that nobody wanted to acknowledge. And my brain will even to now, but I'm not near as crazy as I once was. slowed down some. Um, and I know because of how I grew up is why it happens. I mean, I have attachment and security issues. That's what it is. I don't Safety is a big thing with me, and, if I don't feel safe and I worry, and I will overthink and create an entire narrative in my brain that is not real. It maybe started off in reality, but by the time my brain has filtered it and done its whatever it's gonna do, I've created all these scenarios that are never they're never, like, on the side of greatness. They're always
Yeah.
it's never been good scenarios that I've created, and so I remember a time when I was married in my first marriage, and I had not been to sleep in days, and I wasn't using any type of stimulants at all.
You're manic.
I bad, horribly bad, horribly, horribly bad, and, I just wanted my head to stop, and no one would listen to me, no one. I remember walking in the hospital, and they were like, "We can't do anything for you," and I was like, "What do you," and I smacked my head on the wall. I was like, "Maybe if I hurt myself on the outside, you guys will do something," because
Mhm.
nobody was gonna do anything, and, I've been admitted. I call it the nut hut. That's not a very nice thing to say, but that's what I call it, and, I've been to a few of those here locally, and I I think that I realized that I was every problem I would say, I'd just get a different prescription. It was like, "Oh, you can't sleep. Oh, your mind races. Oh,
It's how medicine is designed, though. They write a script for
Yes.
everything.
Yes, and so I had done that for a long time, all the meds, take the meds, blah, 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 and then I remember, like, I had had enough of that, like, I was like, "I'm not taking all these meds." Like, I don't even I'm not even me, like,
Right.
I'm like this hollowed out. I have no effect whatsoever. I was like, "This is awful," and um, after being in the hospital, that whole situation, I remember that I was like, "I gotta change. Like, I gotta get the fuck away from here. Like, I can't keep doing this weirdo shit with him." And so I just walked away. Like, I walked away from my kids. I walked away from my home. I walked away from everything because that's what I do. I'll just leave. I'm like, this bye. I'm out." So I left, and I didn't have a plan to save myself from nothing.
Where'd you go? What was your first I mean, because
I
I
feel like I
think for a
stayed.
mom I think for a mom, if we're gonna leave, we gotta have a plan of where we're gonna go.
Mhm.
Did you have
So my stepson obviously isn't gonna be able to go with me, so I moved on the opposite side of the apartment complex because my name was on the lease, so I was gonna get an apartment on this side of the complex so I could just be far enough away that, I wasn't gonna mess up my lease. So we did. I split up. We went over there. That was the first time we split up. We ended up getting back together then. Then we bought a home, and after I left when we bought our house, I feel like I stayed maybe with my aunt, maybe my mom for a short amount of time, but I am,
it was just a stepping stone to leave?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't wanna stay. I'm not trying to do that. So I know I got an apartment. I don't know. I'm trying to remember how the story even goes. I know that I went to stay with my little brother. That's what happened. I went to stay with my little brother because he was still alive. So I went to stay out there, and I started drinking more so because now I can, mind you, I'd been with my husband since he was 17. I'm 26 now. So yeah, let's go. What are we gonna
Yeah,
do?
you had to discover who you were now.
Yeah, so I'm now my mom. The one person in the world I don't wanna be, now I'm a mom. So, I had to I went back to my ex-husband and told him I could not have my child currently because I was a mess, and so that I felt like I felt like had given him everything that he wanted, in that moment. I had to
But
go.
um, you felt like you needed to protect your child
Absolutely.
and go tell your ex-husband or your husband that you
Absolutely.
need to take care of the child. I'm
Yes.
not capable of doing that.
Absolutely.
Don't you see that as a point of being responsible to some degree?
Now I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at the time that was my intention. It was my intention was to protect my child. I know that. I mean, I was not in a healthy space in my own mind. I was making shitty choices. I'm drinking all the time. I'm a mess. I
Mhm.
don't and he kept our home, and so that was what needed to happen. Ultimately, was it the best position for my child? No. My child suffered his own amount of things in that situation as a result of the negative environment that was created.
Mhm.
My oldest child was born female and is transgender to a male, and his dad's not with supportive at all.
Okay.
So that led
Okay.
to a lot of self-harm, in depression, in, those types of mental health concerns.
Any child transitioning, that is a tough environment,
Uh-huh.
but an environment that doesn't support it is even more difficult,
Absolutely.
especially if it's an environment where somebody else is dealing with their own um, issues that they're not dealing with,
Uh-huh.
whether it be substance use or mental illness. That would definitely be a shit show to have to try to transition through.
Absolutely. And I can sit here and say today, I wasn't a good mom to my oldest child. I wasn't even a mom at all. I mean, like, I, in my mind, believed that if I just stayed away because I was fucked up, I was
Mhm.
doing better than if I came around.
Right?
And so I stayed away when I probably needed to be there. I know that I recognized at a young age in my child that there was something different. I didn't know what it was, but I'd always known. And so when he was a junior in high school, he came out to me and let me know. And at this point, I was getting myself together. I feel like, yeah, I was on the we were better. I mean, I would bounce in and out of his life, but I was never consistent um
So
until I
from
got
the time
clean.
you left and left the children with him and until your son was in high school, what were those years? It was just in and out, bouncing back and forth?
I mean, I would, so I was drinking a lot. I mean, I would show up and I would still be around, but I was just like the fun mom. I'd come get you, we'd go have fun, and then I'm taking you back to your dad's. Like we're gonna
Mhm.
go kick it at the pool all day, and then I'm gonna take you back to your dad's. I didn't have to do mom. I wasn't momming.
Right.
That I wasn't. And then so in the course of all, like I end up getting on. So I'm out partying, whatever, and I end up when I'm 33 years old, 32, I get with my second husband, and the first night me and him had hung out, he told me, "I've been shooting methamphetamines and I'm gonna get myself clean." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna help you. Like, it's
I'm
gonna be
gonna save
it's gonna be
you.
great." And I had known
My
him.
son always called that save a thug.
Oh yeah, yeah, I was trying to do that. So that's where methamphetamines really got introduced into my life. My little brother struggled with meth. So I have one little brother, biologically little brother, and when he was 18, 19, 20, he struggled with meth. And then he had a daughter and that got him clean. He quit doing meth.
Mhm.
And so I watched the destruction that meth did in his life, and I was like the anti-meth. I was like, I'll do anything, but I'm never doing meth. I was like, that's awful. It's going to ruin your life. Blah, 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 blah. That's,
And here you are facing down the barrel of the gun.
oh, for sure. I'm going to go seek out what I least want. And uh, so and in those times in between, and so from the time I got divorced until the time I get with my second husband, nothing good is happening. I mean, I end up pregnant in this mess, then end up with one guy, but pregnant with this other guy, told this whole lie to this one. I mean, I was not a good no, ended up having an abortion. I mean, like, and those are things that I'm
Manipulating to survive.
absolutely, absolutely. And those are things that are hard to sit and say because, no woman wants to say they've ever had an abortion. I mean, but that's a part of my story. That's at the time in the circumstances I was in, I was making the best choices that I thought I
Well,
could
it was
make.
your best option at the time,
I
and
agree.
I know there's gonna be a lot of people that feel differently about that, but, um, you know, I'm gonna support whoever's choice if they wanted to have a child and put it up for adoption or if they
Mhm.
carried it and it changed their life or whether they choose to have an abortion. Thank God we have the options to figure out what's the best for us in those environments, so there's no judgment coming from over here.
I
I
appreciate that.
that's not It's not my place to sit and make that judgment. I wasn't in your shoes. Neither was anybody else.
I
So,
I agree with that. I think a lot of people get caught up in themselves when
mhm,
they what you would have
yeah.
done. Well,
They
you
didn't roll
don't
up their shirt sleeves and try to save you.
right, you don't know because you weren't there. And
Right.
so I think
Right.
that that's and I support anybody. That's a big thing with me. I don't really care what you're doing. I just want to try to help you be the best you can
Right.
be.
Exactly.
And I don't know what's happening over there for you, and I'm definitely not ever gonna judge
Did you put a lot
anybody.
of thought into it? Did
Nope,
you
not at all.
Right.
Not at all. Nope. I remember that. I
It was an issue that needed to be taken care of.
immediately.
Yeah.
And yes, and I
And in all fairness, I'll reveal to you I've had an abortion as well, and it was very similar to that.
hmm,
It was wrong man, wrong time,
mhm,
and I wasn't gonna be able to,
mhm,
live with the mistakes that I had made.
mhm. That sums it up.
And I wasn't in the situation you were with the drugs swirling
Oh,
around.
yeah. That's always been an
Yeah,
underlining thing. That's all, that's always been around. It just goes up and down and its intensity.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, no, the day that, I remember, I knew I was pregnant before I took a test. I just knew. And I'm probably was further along than because like some of that's a blur. So I remember calling the one guy and I was like, "You need to take me to get a pregnancy test." So he picks me up and we go to Price Chopper. And I remember he was gonna pay at the pharmacy and I had to pee. So I had to walk on the other side of the pharmacy to go, like the other side of the store to go to the bathroom. I already got this test out the box. Like I'm ready to get this over with. I go in, I pee on the sticks. Before he's probably even paid for it, it's already positive. So by the time he makes it over to the restroom, I'm like, now you need to drive me to take me to the abortion clinic. And I'm not even giving him I don't care what you have to say. Like, now, we're going now. Like, I'm not thinking, we're just doing. And I thought I was going to walk in and get an abortion that day. And that is not, no, that is
No,
not what happens.
no,
And I feel like this is something that needs to get talked about because even though I went to an abortion clinic, no one prepared me for what was going to happen
no,
at all.
no.
And I went in that day and they told me that I had to come back another day and that they would give me a pill and that pill would do whatever it was going to do on the inside and then they would give me some more pills and then I would abort the baby at home. And I didn't know, that was as much of the explanation that I got. So I showed up for set appointment, get this pill. They gave me some pain pills, and me being an addict, I took the whole bottle of pain pills because I'm just trying to get through this whatever the hell's about to happen because I'm having an abortion in a man's home that doesn't know I'm pregnant and he that no I like so no idea. And I remember the next morning getting up and taking those pills and you go into labor
Mhm.
and they don't tell you that that's what's gonna happen. So, I had no idea that that was gonna be what was gonna happen to me, and it was awful.
I'm sure you were scared. I'm sure.
It was awful. It was one of the worst experiences of my life, and I had
So they didn't put you through any type of
uh-uh.
videos or anything? Because when I and mine was in the office, mine was
Uh,
in the stirrups, mine was, you have to sit and watch a video to make sure you understand what's gonna happen to you, and, I when you started sharing your story, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I think I would have been better off to have been able to do it in my home," but evidently,
no,
no, that was a much more traumatic experience for
you
you.
literally go into labor, and then nobody told me that was gonna happen, and, again, from my circumstances, I'm in a man's home that doesn't know I'm pregnant and I'm trying to have an abortion.
Mhm.
I had no idea what was going to happen. Um, I remember calling the abortion clinic and told them, I need more pain pills. And it wasn't because I was hurt physically, it's because I needed this to not.
To numb this out.
Uh huh.
You
And,
needed to escape from this.
uh huh.
Nobody told me this.
Nope. And that happened. And I know that I stayed fucked up after that. Like I was fucked up for a minute. I drank excessively after that. I know for certain. Um,
Why do you think that was? Do you think you were trying to run from shame, guilt, anger?
all of the above.
Yeah.
Um, I I was confused. I didn't understand how come I could have one child even though I didn't have my child. So that was the other big piece of this is that I didn't have Rome. That's my oldest child's name. I didn't have Rome. I mean, I did, but I didn't. And
Mhm.
so I didn't really I don't I
You
was
struggled with
so
I chose to have this child, but I can't have him in my life.
uh-huh.
I'm not going to choose to have this unborn child
Uh-huh.
because I'm not doing what I need to be doing to have my other child.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I felt like there would have been yes, absolutely, that. I know, that I was like, my drinking was a lot, and I feel like, I don't this is just my own thing. I felt like something was gonna be wrong with that baby, and so I couldn't bring a baby in the world that I knew that I had screwed up. I was screwing up my own kid already. I wasn't gonna screw up another kid. So
That's understandable.
and it was even more of a strange experience. My dad's adopted, and so for me to have an abortion and like that just didn't.
There was a lot of emotional stuff going on with that then. If
Uh-huh.
your family is a family that has been affected by adoption, but yet you chose to have an abortion and probably wasn't something you could go and tell them about.
Oh, no.
And then you're also in a house that you're with a man who's not the father of the child, so you don't want him to know what you're doing.
Uh-uh.
And, so you truly were alone trying to manage a very grown up decision
Uh,
that had no support and backing on.
it was a lot. It was a whole lot. My one aunt knew, and, but that's it. Nobody else. I mean, I didn't tell anybody else. It was something I carried a lot of shame. I didn't tell anybody that until I got clean. Nobody knew that that had ever happened.
Yeah.
I carried a lot of
I'm
shame with
sure it
that.
was very freeing though to finally
Oh,
finally
absolutely.
let that out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even though it hurts to talk about, but
But there shouldn't be any judgment. You were faced with two horrible decisions, which is the less horrible to make?
Mhm.
And unless somebody has been in that with you, not just in your shoes, but in the shoes with you, they don't have any right to make any decisions or judgments on what you had to choose.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's real easy for people, to sit on the outside and say, "I would have done this." Well,
Mhm.
great, you're not me, and you
Right.
you have no fucking clue until you're doing it.
Right. Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
and a lot of the things that I never thought I would do, I ended up doing. So that's, there's that. Um, yeah, that all happened. I know that my drinking increased, and then I got it. I now like here we are. My brain clearly doesn't work all the way. When I left my first husband, I moved to my dad's. That's what happened, not to my brother's. I moved to my brother's second, but I moved to
Mhm.
my dad's. And the first weekend I was home, I managed to go out on I wasn't even the weekend, that Thursday night, and I got a DUI. And they called my dad. They did not take me to jail. They took me home.
Yeah, they used to do that
I
back
blew a
then.
point like 2.6 at like 7 on a Thursday. Like I had no business driving a car, nothing. I was driving on a flat tire. Like I didn't remember any of this. So yeah, now I got a DUI. So I don't have a license. Um, End up getting divorced, like, where I'm divorced, that all happens, and then I get with my second husband, and he tells me at the Walmart, mind you, he takes me to the meth tweaker house
Mm.
first, and I'm not hip, so I don't know. I've been around a lot of things, but I hadn't been around meth in this capacity, and
Mhm.
I think that that's every drug, every person, all the people that you're using substances have their own little subcultures. It's like you got the weed culture, and then you'll
Mhm.
have the meth culture, and then you have the heroin culture.
Oh yeah.
And there's not a lot of crossover between the
Mm-mm.
cultures unless you're the person dealing the drugs, like so it was a different environment. And
Mhm.
he told me that night, hey, I'm gonna get clean. And I'm like, okay. And I've known him. So I knew him before he was on meth. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. 2 months later I get pregnant. Um, I wind up pregnant and he goes to jail. And I just get mad. He was on probation already for something, so he goes to prison the first time, and all that happened is I just get madder and fatter. Like that's all that's happening. I'm pissed. Like I'm pissed that you're back in prison for meth, and I don't like what. I'm about to have this baby. I'm living at my mom's. My mom and I's relationship's tumultuous. She's a drunk. It's the same.
Mhm.
I'm just 33 now. It's not nothing's changed between her and I. I mean, that's how I learned how to fight, was fighting my mom. My mom would get drunk, try to fight me. My mom's accused me of everything from here to the moon, sleeping with my stepdad. I mean, all the things. Like things
The
that
delusional stuff that comes with drinking.
absolutely, I could say that. Yeah, absolutely. I could say that now. I know that my mom has said things that have come out of my mother's mouth that I would not ever speak to my children ever. Ever ever. And so I'm back at my mom's pregnant pregnant as can be, and, I go on a walk with my mom, and I end up my water breaks, and my mom didn't believe me. I'm like, "She's drunk." I'm like, "Mom, like, my water's broke." I drive myself with my drunk mother in the passenger seat to the hospital. My mom can't figure out how to get her dumbass out of the car to come inside with me. So finally, they get me out of. I get out of the car. I go inside. So my child's father's in prison. My mom's here drunk, and my best friend's high on dope. So she's on her way. This is fun. For no one at all.
Right.
And, I my labor was going quick, like, I was having a baby, and, I remember my mom being there and on her bullshit, and I was like, "Can't you just send her home?" And I'm like, "Lady, look, this I'm having a baby, like, right now, like, we're not going home." And, I had my 2nd child, and I did not put her dad's name on the birth certificate because 'cause I'm pissed, and, my girlfriend's there trying to cut the umbilical cord, high on dope, shaken, I mean, and she's got, like, 4 kids, and she's like, "I don't know where the umbilical cord is." My mom's still drunk and in denial, like, it was, like, the craziest shit ever. And I just am trying to go home. I'm like, "Okay, cool. I had a baby. Can I leave?" And they're like, "No, your daughter has marijuana in her system." I'm like, "Yeah, she sure does. So do I. Smoked weed the whole time I was pregnant. My doctor knew, everybody knew." So they have to hotline me. So the DFS comes the next day
Were you
and
worried? Were you scared?
not really. No, because it was just weed.
Just weed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't just weed. I mean, I wasn't as bad. I mean, so there's,
Right,
whatever.
right. No, I mean, there's much worse things,
Correct.
and you had experienced much worse, so
And I'd kinda
weed
come
was
back,
the
so that's
least
like,
of
that's
yeah.
like where I was like, "Oh, I'm kinda on a comeback here." Um, I hadn't done meth yet, so it just gets better. I They came and they talked to me, and I was just honest with them because the lady comes in, she's like, "Look," she's like, "You can either." I was like, "I have 2 choices. I can either be a liar or I can just be a pothead. I'm gonna go with just a pothead, like, that's what it is." And she was like, "Okay." And they came out and made sure everything was cool and for the baby, and that was it. They wrapped it up, DFS closed my case, and that was that. So and that was all at my mom's. Well, then after I was pregnant, my one girlfriend that came and high and couldn't cut the umbilical cord, she's on all the dope. She's got 4 kids. And so now I got this baby, and I'm like, oh, well, I'll just go stay over here with her. Well, I go stay over there with her, and she's got everybody on the dope. And then my child's, oh no, I would not do meth still because I was, it's dirty. That's what dirty people do. That's what,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
I did that high class Johnson County cocaine in my life, so I'm not doing that dirty meth, but I'll take any pill you got. So, first I started taking Adderall, um, and that Adderall's great. I mean, I got ADHD like a mother. I also am an addict, so I like to do a lot.
Mhm.
Um, that gets expensive. So I learned quickly that Adderall is too expensive because I liked it. I liked Adderall. I liked that it slowed my brain down like in a different way that
Right.
it slowed it down enough that I was still functioning. Whereas Xanax, you eat enough Xanax, you're just, yeah, it shuts my brain off, but it shuts me off too.
Right.
So like it was like the best of both worlds. And that became very expensive taking Adderall. So I was like, well, I gotta figure something else out. So I still was not gonna use meth, but my girlfriend was like, well, you can just swallow it. So she would put meth in a Kleenex or whatever the hell it was, and I just acted like I was using pills.
So why was swallowing it versus smoking it or shooting it, why you chose I
Because
mean,
I wasn't in my brain, I was still using Adderall. I wasn't using meth. I was
so you
still
were getting the stimulant without acknowledging that it was meth.
correct because I was in such denial that the meth is bad, and I was like,
Mhm.
"And I'm not gonna ever use meth." Even though I'm actively using
Right.
methamphetamines, I'm
Right.
convincing myself that I'm not. So
So you were parachuting it.
absolutely. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Shock you that I know that.
Uh, no, I know your son, so no, no, not at all.
He educated me well.
Yes, no, that makes sense to me. So yes, I was parachuting dope, and my my child's father gets out of prison, and I'm a shit show, I'm got a baby, I'm doing dope. My grandma died, in
So
my
when you were using meth in this early stage of using it, were you
uh
showing symptoms of somebody that's a tweaker? The
Oh,
The
I'm su
movement, the behavior?
I don't think I ever had, like, the weirdo movements. I mean, I'm sure there's sometimes, but I know I did some fucked up shit. I mean, sure, I mean, I didn't sleep, but that was it, and we'd color and just nothing of substance. Like, I'd
Yeah.
paint my toenails, or I took care of kids, so I would take care of everybody's kids, like, because my girlfriend worked, and so I took care of the kid. I mean, that's really what it
Mhm.
was. So I was
Mhm.
just doing dope, taking care of kids,
Yeah.
and, at first. Oh, excuse me. And so he gets out of prison. I remember he gets out of prison and he's like, You're a mess. You have to go to treatment." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever you're
So he
saying."
could tell, or you were honest with him?
Oh no, I told him.
Okay.
I told him. I never lie. So like
Mhm.
I'm not. I think, and a lot of times like people think that I'm lying when I'm telling the truth. And I'm like, no, that's the truth. My aunt in particular, I'd gone to my grandma's funeral, and this was early in the meth days. And so I'd gone to my grandma's funeral, and my aunt was like, "Oh my gosh, you've lost all your baby weight." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing meth." And she was like, "No, you're not." And I was like, "Okay, I'm not, but I really was." And
Mhm. They didn't know how to take it.
uh-uh. And I think that they just didn't want to,
Right.
they didn't want to believe it. So um, he gets out and I decide it's like, "You gotta go to treatment." So I go to treatment for the first time at a not so great neighborhood, 59th and Swope, right over by the zoo, at,
Mhm.
a facility, and it didn't make me wanna be clean.
No, you were just housed with everybody else that was doing it.
Correct, and there was nothing that they were making appealing about getting clean. It was just I was there to rest for 30 days and
Yeah.
meet some new people, you know,
Yep.
and maybe go to a couple meetings that wasn't very.
Do you remember who that was with? What program?
Mhm. I do. They're no longer open.
I think it's the same house that Stephen was at. He was in that same neighborhood through a program once too.
Really?
Yeah. Oh
Huh.
well.
There's been a couple over there because I used to man it. So funny, crazy world how this works. The house that I stayed in while I was in treatment, when I managed a men's recovery program, the house that they told me to go to was the same house that I lived in when I was in treatment. And I was like, "What?" It's
Right.
so
Full
great.
circle.
It was really crazy. Yeah, it was a shock. So yeah, I go to treatment and I get out of treatment, and we're gonna get back together and everything's gonna be great, and no supports. I have an infant. He has 2 other daughters that he doesn't have custody of, that aren't here. I have a child that I don't have. We're living with his grandmother. It's the girl that he was using with, and my friend that I was using with lives next door. This is not a recipe for success by any means.
Right. It
Um,
it sounds like it's just all you went and did is take a little break, and now we're gonna come back and go at it again.
for sure. For sure. And I'd never done dope with my baby daddy, because he's in prison. So now he starts getting high behind my back, and I find out, and he shoots dope. And so I'm like, well, if you love me, you're going to shoot me up, because that's what we're going
That's
to do.
what this is all about.
Yeah, that's what happened. I do not recommend that to anybody ever in my life. I lost my fucking mind. Um, it was bad. It was bad. I started shooting dope. I mean, like, if you'd have told me, there's no fucking way if you'd have told me I shot dope ever in my life, I would have been like, "You've lost your mind." But nope, shooting
Yeah.
dope. And
So was there that moment where you went from the method in which you were using prior to shooting up? Do you remember? Was it a just a split decision? Let's do it, or was there a conversation about it and you were nervous about it? I mean, how
uh-uh.
quickly did you switch from ingesting it through your mouth versus taking it?
I'd smoked dope a few times, or I had started smoking dope because if you're around people using meth, like the people that smoke dope don't ever stop smoking dope. That's all they do. They just
Yeah,
smoke meth all day long.
yeah.
It's a constant thing. So I'd smoked some dope, but he was shooting dope. So him to love me,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Right.
And, no, real there was no conversation of substance, no, not at all. And I don't even know.
It was just come over here, tie me off, and let's go.
Uh-huh, pretty much. That was it.
Okay.
I remember him telling me I'd never like it before this. He's like, "I'll never do that to you, it'll ruin you," and all this shit, and then here we are.
He
Uh,
didn't have a problem with it then, though, did he?
uh-uh,
Yeah.
uh-uh. Um, it did not improve our relationship at all. No, just made shit even more crazy. And I got an infant, so
Now we have 2 paranoid
uh-huh.
people screwed up. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see how that's a recipe for disaster.
awfulness, awfulness. And we're doing all the things. Like I'm not making good choices by any means, like we're out stealing cars, take your pick. I mean, he's doing all the shit.
Hustling.
I'm not committing crime yet. Um, I'm in the background, I'm just there getting high and taking care
He's
of.
taking care of you because he's out there hustling, doing all the dirty
Yes.
work and enough to be able to make sure he's keeping you in dope.
Yes. Correct. However, he has a penis and he's not very successful at that. So I'm gonna have to step in because men just it doesn't it's not the same world. It's different
Yeah.
for men and women using drugs. And so I know.
I was privileged to watch that as the mother watching my son do that.
Uh-huh.
I, you know,
Uh-huh.
and he wasn't he didn't hide any of it. He didn't lie about it. He'd come dragging in here the things that he scored for the day
Mm,
that he was going to have to clean up, straighten around, do something with, and take it and go sell it.
uh-huh.
And yeah, so I seen that same entrepreneurship.
The exhaustion, like the
Like, isn't it just so much easier just go get a job?
uh-huh. Right. Well,
Wouldn't it be just so much easier just to go punch a time clock
yes.
and do your 8-hour shift, and the end of the week, you got a wad of cash? Wouldn't that be easier? But no, let's take an entire week to go steal and rob
Uh-huh.
and come home and clean it up, straight and strip wire, do this, do that, whatever,
All the crap.
and then go get a quarter of what you would have gotten if you'd have just gone to work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, if you go to work, you can't entertain all the activities that come along with,
Right. Right.
doing the drugs.
Yeah. Cuts into my drug time.
Yes, because doing dope is a full-time job, the getting and the doing and the people and the just all of it. You get
Oh
wrapped.
yeah, it is a culture. It's
Absolutely.
a complete culture of everything that you're doing just for the high, just to go get the
Mhm.
high. Yeah.
And the shit you're doing when you are high. I mean, like, I had an infant, so, like, I have a baby. Like, I don't have any business doing any of this shit, but I got a baby,
Right.
and I you know, we were shooting dope, getting high, and just take your pick. I mean, I had my daughter running in and out of every crap ass hotel from here to the moon.
Was any of your family during this time seeing that you're going down the wrong
"Oh, they
path?
see.
Were they intervening? Were they
Nah.
talking to you?
Nope.
They were just over here going,
Mhm. Pretty
"Oh
much.
my God, look what she's doing."
Pretty much. Pretty much. I don't think that they knew what to do. Like, I know again, my mom and I's relationship's really weird, so, like, I'm not talking she stresses me the fuck out, so I'm not trying to talk to her, especially and I could say, like,
Well, she
I
was dealing with her own level of addiction.
"Oh, yeah, she's still
So
drinking."
she probably felt bad for what she was seeing you go through, but she didn't have the skills to be able to work
I
with
was a
you.
sympathy story. I was a great story my mom could tell, so everybody
Yeah.
feel bad for her.
Yeah.
That's what that was.
My daughter, she's all strung out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Poor me. Yeah.
Mhm.
That was a story. So no, nobody and I distanced myself from, like, my dad, because like, I'm not trying to go around you when I'm all fucked up. I do that to my family, I stay away when I'm fucked up. They know.
Stephen was the same way. He wouldn't bring it. He tried not to bring it around me. So
Same.
yeah.
I didn't wanna be high around my family unless and if I was coming around you, then it was real bad. Like, that was I needed to crash out or whatever.
I was the crazy mom that would go and find him.
Really?
I'd go find him, and then he would be ashamed and embarrassed and angry that I showed up.
Uh,
He would
in the moment,
and he would
maybe.
go, Mom, I don't want you to see me like this. Why are you here? Go home. This isn't safe for you here. I don't want you here. I don't want you to see me like this."
Mhm.
And I would look at him and I go, "I don't give a shit what state of mind you're in.
Mhm.
I needed to know you were alive.
Right.
Let me get you a sandwich. Let's go eat."
Yeah, no, my family didn't do that.
I'm sorry you didn't get that. I really am, because you deserved it. You really did. You know, and everybody deserves. Sorry, I'm going to cry too. I'm sorry. Everybody deserves to have somebody care about them, no matter where they're at in their addiction. My son was always more than his struggle. I knew who he was as a child. I knew he was still inside there. and maybe he couldn't show it to me because the drugs overlapped his inside, but I would still try to reach to him. And even when he was high, I remember going and sitting down on Independence Avenue at the gas station out there by the Quick Trip, or out there by the Price Chopper, just sitting watching, waiting
Uh-huh.
for him to pull in, to walk in, whatever. I mean, different times he had a vehicle, different times he was walking. And I was sitting at the car wash across the street from it, and here he comes pulling in probably a stolen vehicle. He got out and he was putting gas in, and he was hustling because he had two or three people walking up to him, and he was selling uh, stolen stuff, I'm sure.
Right.
And I I pulled my vehicle up to the gas pump next to him. I wouldn't dare walk across that area by myself, but I
Uh-huh.
pulled my vehicle up next to him. He didn't even notice it was me until I got out, and I leaned against my car waiting for him to see me
Mhm.
because he was still hustling, talking business. And he turned and he looked at me, and he just immediately, oh, Mom, what the fuck are you doing here? Get the fuck out of here. God damn it, Mom. Why are you down here checking up on me? Why are you down here up in here in my business? I just wanted to take you to lunch.
It's your mom and
I said, let me go take you to this Mexican restaurant. Let's go get a bite to eat.
mhm.
And he was like, God damn, Mom, how long you been here watching me? I go, I don't give a shit what you were doing. I said, park your vehicle, lock it up. Let's go down the street and get something to eat. No, no, I'm not going to, I'm not, he wouldn't. And he didn't go. He
Right.
didn't go that day. I ended up leaving and going home. But I'm
He knew you
sorry.
cared.
Yeah, well, he also called me the crazy mom that show up everywhere. And I did. But I'm sorry you didn't have that. I'm sorry you didn't have a parent or a family member that was knocking at your door telling you, hey, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, I don't yeah, they no, that definitely didn't happen. I think that, like, my mom was drinking and she just I was a story that she could
Well, she
tell.
was caught up in hers.
Yeah, and I my dad comes from the era he doesn't talk about his feelings to this day. I mean, my dad doesn't tell me he loves me, ever.
He didn't have the skill set.
And so I don't think that they knew what to do. So I'm not angry with them by any means, it just sucks that they
You were
weren't
in this battle by yourself.
correct. They weren't more equipped to try to help me. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, shit wasn't good at
No,
all. I he went back to prison. At some point he went back to jail a couple times. He went in and out, I don't know.
that was pretty normal. I mean,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
dad
yeah.
did that same thing,
Absolutely.
in and out of Independence jail, and
Uh-huh.
until he did something bad enough, he'd bounce over into Jackson County. But yeah,
Mhm. I At some point he got me to cash a check, a payroll check that was made out to me and it was a fraudulent check. So I get a
and we had check fraud too. We
uh-huh.
dealt with check fraud too.
I got a forgery charge in
Yep.
Cass County and
Oh, that's not a good county to get
no,
anything in.
no, no. Trap County, that's what it is, really. So yeah, I got in trouble in Cass County. Um, and that went on for a while. They didn't like me. I've been in their jail a
Cass
lot.
County is a tough jail.
Uh-huh.
Cass County is, they don't play around down there.
No, they don't. They don't. So yeah, we end up I'm trying to think how this whole story goes. I get the charge. I'm on probation. Clearly probation is not going to work out. Um when my daughter I had met another guy at some point and one of the cuz I had my daughter when I have this baby and I have no business having this baby. Like I can sit here and tell you this today. My daughter has been in more trap houses than a lot of adults have been in. And my daughter's been in situations like that. I had no business having this. And I toted her with me everywhere. I was paranoid to leave her anywhere because I was afraid I wasn't going to get her back. And in my mind, I felt as long as I had my daughter, I wasn't that bad. It's not
You
that
felt like you
bad.
were taking care of your daughter.
Uh
It
huh.
might not have been the standard of everybody else,
Uh
but
huh.
you were doing the best you could.
Correct. And so I have this baby and I met a guy and he would let me stay at his house and his mom so like he lived in the basement of his mom's house and so his mom would take care of my daughter for me and I would leave my daughter with her. And she was my daughter looked at her as a grandma. I mean, like, that's who my daughter's grandma was, and so she was around for a long time, and we stayed there, even after her dad got out of prison, and then we all were there, then they end up getting in trouble together, that he goes to prison, I'd got that was his mom's house got kicked in, DFS got called again, they didn't do anything, it was just take your babysitter and go. I didn't get any consequences there again. I still have this baby. I remember somehow, I don't know, I'm shooting dope and doing all the things. Like, I'm trying to kill this man every other day because he's messing with this girl and telling me he's not, but yet I see her in the car and like all whatever, all the every crazy thing that you can think of, I have probably done it and thought it, and yeah, and meth just makes it that much more heightened, for lack of a yeah.
Oh, sure. The behavior that goes with it, the hustling with the other girls because they're doing dope with him
Ah,
and riding with him while
all
he's
of it.
yeah.
All of the things, all the time, and um
I've rolled up on Steven a couple of times. He was with Nina, but I'd find him out with somebody else, and I would
uh-huh.
be like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, mom, it's a dope thing. Just quit worrying about it."
Uh-huh, fits a bit fit serves a purpose,
Right.
uh-huh. Yeah, and I feel like during that time, is I wasn't supposed to ask any questions, I just supposed to go along with it. Well, I don't do that very well, and, he ends up back in prison, I feel like, and at some point when my daughter's around 2, I end up in a hotel in Nevada, Missouri. I have no idea how I'm even what I don't know anyone in Nevada to this day, like, I don't know why I ended up at this hotel in Nevada. I think I had a church that would pay for a room for me and my daughter to stay in, and so that's what and I would always have hotel rooms. So, like, the Crown Lodge on 350, like, I lived there forever with my baby because, like, and I would have a room, but I wouldn't let anybody come in my room. So that was always, I had a safe place for my daughter to be. I'd go do my shit elsewhere until I didn't. And then, so I ended up in this hotel. Well, but before then, like, other things have happened that I'm leaving out, like, that are I know, because like, I just feel like it's stuff that's important for people that are listening to hear, because the shame and guilt that you're talking about, like, there's a lot of things that happen when you're using dope, and a lot of guilt and shame that you carry with it, things that a lot of people don't talk about, and, there was a point when my daughter was under 2 that, I fell out and my daughter had needles in her hands, and my girlfriend found her with needles, like, "What?" I know I'm not the only one that that's ever happened
Oh,
to,
no.
and I won't be the last person that that's ever happened to, and I just think that that's something that needs to be talked
Well, I
about.
mean, when you're talking about the environment that you're raising your daughter in, you've got, you're living in a trap house situation, and there's probably, I mean, I've been in and out of a lot of them, going in and getting Steven,
Mm,
or he'd be living over there, and I would come over and try to visit him, and you'd walk in, and you're like, I
yes.
have to be super careful where I sit at because it's filthy for
Uh-huh,
one, and it's you know, am I gonna get stuck by a needle sitting on the
uh
couch,
My daughter and I lived in a room in one house where we had a couch cushion. We didn't have bed. I had a couch cushion, and I slept on a couch cushion for, like, 6 months with my baby. I got chased out of there by the guy with a hatchet with my daughter in an infant car seat hiding in a ditch laying over her. I just and I just picked up and kept going.
And that just becomes normal. It
Absolutely.
just becomes normal because I can remember Stephen having telling stories similar but different for him. Mom, you need to come get me out of this house because I pissed off the lady that lives in this house and her people are standing outside with a gun waiting on me.
Uh-huh.
Just those ins and I can tell you as a mom, I'm taking that phone call while I'm at work.
Mhm.
"Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Right.
Um, yeah, I will have to call you back on my break." And he's flipping out on the other side
Right.
because he's like, "No, no, no, mom, you don't understand. I'm going to die today." And I've got people that I'm working for looking at me, and I'm turning the volume down on my phone at the same time, hoping that they didn't hear the first part of that.
Right.
And then hang up the phone and then go, "Oh God, what do I do? What do I do?" pick up the phone, call his little brother and say, "Go get your brother out of the house, that
Right.
dope house that he's, go 2 blocks over and I'll call him back and tell him to jump the fence and meet you over there."
Right.
I was just as much into it as he was, as trying to save him or fix him or help him, enable him, whatever you wanna weaponize and call it. I understand those, um I call it such heavy drama and chaos that you live in, that you don't realize that other people don't live like that.
Absolutely. No,
Because you're
I
so in it, you don't realize how bizarre.
oh,
I mean, I don't know.
no, that's true. No, no,
You don't
that's
realize how bizarre you're living, but you do know it if you tell somebody and they look at you like, "What?"
well, and you
And
get
that's when you go, "Oh, I need to shut up because
yes, then you don't tell
I'm
them.
way out there."
Uh-huh. And I think that it absolutely everything had become so normal. The chaos yes. Every day was something. It didn't matter. I couldn't even tell you what the somethings were, but there was always something. And it was always chaotic. But looking back now, that makes sense. I lived in chaos my whole life. So why would I
Mhm.
not go looking for it?
Right.
I didn't know what it was like to not have chaos. So,
And as the parent going through that, I knew I was flaky as hell to other people around me
mhm.
because I had one foot in the chaos realm,
Sure.
one foot trying to hang on to reality,
Uh-huh.
trying to figure out how do I pull him out of the chaos without getting sucked into it.
Well, and you're trying to carry that and not let anybody know what's
Oh yeah, oh
happening.
yeah, it was all a double life,
Yeah.
and it was all to try to maintain. I had a very professional job. I had a job that it had an expectation of being in charge of other people,
Uh-huh.
creating policies and executing expectations on the job, and here I can't manage my own mess at home.
Well, and you're and
And I'm hiding it because I know nobody in my workplace would understand. Because if I ever shared what I was dealing with, they would lose all confidence in me to be able to perform my job.
do you think that now, do you think that's true?
I still think that that stigma is there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's sad.
especially in my industry. That I worked as a safety director or a safety
Uh-huh.
professional.
Well, especially as a woman in that role.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you have to do the job twice as good as a man to get half the credit for what you're doing. So there was no way. As a matter of fact, that we're talking about stereotypes here. I could not ever tell anybody I was because I worked from home a lot.
Right.
But there was never any discussion that I'm actually standing here trying to cook dinner while I'm trying to finish up my business for the day. Because
Right.
you know damn good and well, the male colleagues that I worked with, they weren't cooking dinner. They were still hammering it away on the computer, finishing up their day because they had somebody else cooking for them.
Right.
So you become an expert at multitasking.
Uh-huh.
So I just took it to the next level of being able to chase my son through his hustle and try to keep an eye on what he was up to so that if he honestly, I was scared death he was going to die out there.
Sure.
And I had this desire to not want to lose grip of him.
Sure.
I didn't want to lose my son to it.
Sure.
I know now, and I knew towards the end of his addiction that I had no control of it. But in the beginning, when you first are dealing with it, as a mom, as a parent, you don't understand the enabling that we get blamed or weaponized against and said we're enabling. We don't know anything different.
No.
We don't know anything different.
Well, and it's hard as a parent to say to tell you I mean, to put in good boundaries that protect everybody that,
Right. Right.
that aren't enabling for lack of a better term, and I've heard, "You're gonna love them to death," be said. Well, I have kids, and you're damn right, I probably will love them to death.
Hmm.
Uh, I feel like there has to be education, like,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
like and the stigma in the workplace is ridiculous, not just for the people that are it's not just for the people that are struggling with addiction. It's the people that are the people that are around you that are, because it's a ripple effect. It doesn't just
Yeah.
impact the person that is
Yeah.
using. And
And I can remember sharing with an employer. I worked for a small company, so I they had corporate jets, and we had to fly in a
mhm,
corporate environment. So I wasn't able to escape from when I was traveling with them, and we had chaos happening. And yeah, I could, you know, I didn't have any access while we were in air, but you land and you're still traveling, getting in a rental vehicle with them. I
right,
couldn't escape them. And I finally had to say, "Listen, I have something happening at home, and it's a mess, and I need to have some privacy to take a couple of phone calls."
right,
"Okay, okay, yeah, no problem, no problem. We're gonna stop and get something to eat. If you need to sit in the vehicle and handle your business, and just tell us what you want. We'll order your food."
right,
I remember coming back to the table and them looking at me like, "Well, can you share what's going on?"
right,
And that first moment of going, I have a son who's an addict. And they were like, "Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that."
mhm,
And then one of them saying, "Yeah, I took pain pills when I was in high school and I struggled with it for a little while, but I was able to kick that." And I went, "Oh, isn't that sweet?"
mhm.
I mean, you're just there's no comparison
No,
when they don't. Okay, great. You were able to come off pain pills after being on them for 30 days.
and it's I think and I
And I'm not saying that that is not the way a lot of people come into contact with at being an opiate addict. That's a whole other thing, because the opiate industry is has destroyed this company, or destroyed this world. But this is a highly intelligent person who has a successful company as a young man.
mhm.
N- You didn't get drugged down through it and back.
Oh, no.
You experimented and it scared you.
Sure,
You were not an addict.
sure.
So you cannot even begin to sympathize or understand where we've been.
No.
We've done 13 years of prison at this point, dude. And I couldn't tell him any of that, but yeah.
Well, and I think that's something that happens, people want just as humans, we wanna try to relate to other people, and so, and I know that I've told people, and I'll just share little bits or pieces, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, why?" Same kinda thing I get, and all I'm thinking in my brain is like, "You have no fucking clue." Like,
Right. Oh, you poor thing.
yeah, I'm like, I understand that, you
And I
might
don't want to make light of somebody else's trauma either.
absolutely not.
But I know in my case, we were extreme in the resistance to recovery.
Mhm,
We were not an average story. We Stephen did 13 years in and out of prison. Stephen was shot multiple times in his lifetime. The
mhm,
last time made him a quadriplegic, and then he relapsed again.
mhm,
We have an extreme story of systematic failures throughout his entire process, in his whole years of being an addict of 25 years. And I might sit here at I had a meeting yesterday with a chief of police.
uh
And when I said that he had a systematic failure, that his needs were not met by the system that was supposed to help him, that made that man uncomfortable. He didn't like hearing that, because
truth hurts.
he feels like, no, he made choices that he chose not to lean into that. And I just I said respectfully,
It's a little bit of both.
right? I said respectfully, um, you didn't walk those 25 years with me to know exactly what failed, what didn't fail, what was his responsibility, what he gave up on too quickly, what he gave everything he could,
Sure.
what wouldn't give him second chances. I said, there's a whole lot of 25 years that you can't just sum up into one sentence and say, he chose.
Mhm.
If it was just as simple as a choice, we wouldn't have a country of people who couldn't do it.
Absolutely. I yeah, that I and it's my dad, a few times had said, "Sarah, why don't you just stop?"
Why don't you
Oh,
just
no
stop?
shit, like, that never crossed my mind.
Right.
And and I think a lot of people think, "Well, you just don't have willpower and all these things," and it's not that simple to just it's not just the drugs themselves, that the drugs are a symptom of a bigger issue. I
It's a trauma.
Yes,
It's a response to a trauma.
there's absolutely the drugs are like a Band-Aid to the trauma.
They were the fix until they became the problem.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly how it pulls you in.
Mhm.
Oh, thank God this feels so much better. I can function now until it grabs a hold of you to where you can't function without it.
Well, then the other part of that for me, and I can only talk about myself, is that I got addicted to the hustle. Like, I was addicted to the
Oh,
hustle
Stephen was too.
and the
Loved
gain.
it. That's the reason
Yes,
why he didn't want to give up being an addict. He
absolutely.
loved the hustle.
I you
He
know
loved being the tough guy.
Uh-huh,
Before he was injured, Stephen could manipulate and make anybody do anything he wanted to
uh-huh.
do because his bravado would be his first go-to. If he couldn't push you around with his bravado, then he intimidated and imposed his will upon you to force you to do something, and he loved being that guy.
You get into you get wrapped up in it. I mean, it fuels this unhealthy system in your body that I mean, like, I'm not just fueling myself with substances, now you're feeding my shitty ego that I've
Right.
got, you know,
Well,
and
and I think for him, methamphetamine made him 10 foot tall and
oh,
bulletproof.
absolutely.
So he believed he
Yeah,
was that person
for sure.
because he felt like that when he was
Mm,
high.
absolutely.
And then he struggled with the depression and he didn't want to go cycle in and out. He wanted to stay high.
Well, and I think that, as somebody that has mental illness and has been diagnosed with take your pick, I mean, using meth did not help that. I mean, it helped pieces of it, but then when you were not on the meth, it amplified other
Yeah.
pieces of it. So messing with the chemicals in my brain, adding more is not, I'm not a chemist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't need to try to do that to myself.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't know that at the time. I, I wanted to not have intense emotions. That's what it was. I just needed something to dull it down. Like, if we just just
Right.
throw like a fire blanket on it, or I don't know,
And
just
for
something.
somebody who doesn't struggle with that, um, I didn't have that personality, and I don't even want to say an addictive personality because I hate that term. Um, I've never struggled with addiction, but I can understand for the first time in my life, I think I could understand how that could become an issue because the doctor that wrote me the script for the Xanax, the last 6 weeks that Stephen was alive. I went to that doctor and I said, I probably should have been on medication years ago because of the trauma Stephen was putting me through. But I had gotten to the point where I could not stop the insanity and the pain that was coming from it, that I had entertained the idea of maybe I just need to take a hike from reality.
Understandably.
Maybe I need to, and I had to be honest with my husband. I had to be honest with my psychiatrist or psychologist. Maybe I'm the problem.
Mhm.
Maybe I need to check out of life. My psychologist was, "Do you have a plan?"
Mhm.
No, I do not have a plan. I'd like to just go to sleep and never wake up again because I can't stop the insanity and the pain. I can't escape what is hurtful to me.
Right. Right.
And I had gone to the doctor and told her I needed some meds because I didn't think, I go, I don't think I'm having suicidal ideation, but I would sure like for this pain to go away.
Uh-huh.
And so she's like, let's get you on some Xanax. I don't want you taking it during the daytime. Just take it at night to help you sleep. And, I don't, I know that you're going to be, because I was worried about it becoming addictive.
Mhm.
Like, well, that's the last thing I need is to get on something,
Right.
you know. But I can remember taking it a first time or two. I had taken a half dose, or maybe even it was a full dose. I don't know. But was sitting watching TV going, oh.
I shouldn't laugh, but I know exactly what feeling you're talking about.
Oh, I can do this.
I mean, you feel it hit you.
Yeah.
Xanax, you feel hit
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And I was like, I like this.
Uh-huh.
And I'm the one who just barely takes a Tylenol.
Uh-huh.
I don't take pain medication after surgeries.
Mhm.
I don't do the medications, mostly because Steven has scared me the shit out of medications.
Right.
So I went, I can do this. And then but I woke, the next morning I had a hungover feeling from it.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, "Ooh, I don't like that. I don't like that part of it. All right, I'm not gonna fool with this stuff. Stuck it back in the medicine cabinet. I'm not fooling with this stuff." And then 3 or 4 days later, I would go, "Wait a minute.
Mhm.
I could take a little escape and I'll be good." So, as somebody who didn't have an issue with wanting to take drug or didn't have the desire, I for about 3 or 4 days, no, I take that back. 3 or 4 weeks, I dabbled with once or twice a week.
Sure.
Going, "That's a nice escape."
It was on its
That's
way.
yeah, and that's when I went, "Oh, shit. This is where it happens.
Absolutely.
This is where it happens."
Everything that I used at one point, I liked.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I I'd be lying if I said I didn't have fun, and I'd be lying if I didn't
Well,
say
if
that
drugs
I
weren't fun, nobody'd be starting them
correct,
out anyway,
correct.
so
I had a lot of good times, there was a lot of good times when I was high, but I can tell you the bad times were way worse than the good
right.
times.
I handed that medication to my husband and
Uh-huh.
said, "Get it the fuck out of the house."
Good job.
I said, "I could easily be Steven. Just give me a couple of years on this shit."
Mhm.
And I handed it to him, and it's gone, it's been out of the house,
Good job.
and but it was the first time I ever had that
Uh,
moment of understanding where it got started with
sure,
Stephen.
sure.
Now I get it because he was looking to escape what was painful.
Uh-huh.
He was looking to, and then once you have successfully escaped from the pain, now it becomes what you got to live with.
Mm,
This is the meds that I got to live with because this is what makes me feel better.
yes.
I can't feel normal again. Now I have to have this.
And normal's such a shitty word.
Right.
I'm not a
Like,
fan of that. I don't
lack of a better word,
right.
I can't get back to the feelings I had prior. This is what I have to chase from here on out.
Uh-huh.
And it was the first time and unfortunately, Stephen was already passed when I discovered I had that. And maybe I was seeking it because anything I could think of to bring me closer to Stephen, I was willing
Absolutely.
to go there.
Absolutely.
So in those moments of this is where he was at, this is what he was chasing. I get it now. I wish I'd had that opportunity to explain to him. I understand that feeling of chasing something. For the first time, that's the feeling of chasing something. But I'm not going to continue to chase it
It
because I've seen what you've given me the example of where I'm going to go if I continue to chase that,
yeah,
you know,
and it happens just like
and it
that.
happens just like that.
Absolutely.
If I hadn't have experienced what we went through with Steven, I may have gone down that road.
Sure.
I mean, I was choosing to use the drugs because of Steven.
Right.
I was trying to escape some hurt and pain, but if I'd had that experience with somebody else and I choose to use something to ease that pain, I probably would have gone down those roads. So I can't sit here and say I'm that much different than what Steven was. I just didn't have the trauma in my life when he was going through his drug use. My
Sure.
trauma came after his death, or I was acknowledging the trauma at that
Sure.
point,
Sure.
and I was trying to medicate the trauma.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think, addiction's tricky. It's baffling, cunning baffling. That's what, I've learned. Um, I think, it lies dormant in everybody. It's just a matter of the right mix of shit and you're on your way and you don't even know it. And the more for me that we normalized recovery, like, I think that that's something that needs to happen. I know that if I sat here with you or anybody and I say, close your eyes and tell me what does an addict look like, we all create a picture,
Mhm.
and in my own mind, I create this picture of somebody on the gas room, like you're on the gas station floor, you're probably gray, you're tied off, you got a needle hanging out of your arm, like nothing good, and
Mhm.
then if you open your eyes, I'm an addict sitting right
Mhm.
here, right now. So
Right.
I think people lose sight that recovery can happen,
Yeah.
and
I did that in my community. A year ago, a year and a half ago, they had the first meeting in our community talking about fentanyl. And I went to that meeting because I hadn't actually publicly said, um, I was still living in the shame and embarrassment and isolation of my son's an addict.
Sure.
And this community was talking about, fentanyl's in our community. This is happening. Well, I know it was happening because Stephen had it coming in and out of his house. He was
Right.
the biggest pusher in this community with it.
Right.
And I was embarrassed and ashamed of that at the same time. And I knew that this small community of these people that showed up for this meeting, they weren't the addicts. They were the parents of the addicts. They were the community that knew nothing about it. They were, lily white picket fence households that
Right.
know nothing about addiction. And I thought, I'm going to teach these folks about addiction. They're gonna get an education before they leave here. And I walked up to the podium, and because it was open mic,
Mhm.
"Come, you have a question, come up here." I walked up to the podium and I said, "I'm the mother of an addict, and this is what we look like.
Good
And
for
I get
you.
gas in your gas station, and I buy groceries at your
Uh-huh.
grocery store, and I sit in your church pew." I
Uh-huh.
said, "And most of you would never know I'm the mother of an addict, but I bet you know who my son is.
Mhm.
I bet you've seen my son in this community, and you've drove right past him, and you've walked across the street to get away from him,
Mhm.
and you have felt sorry for him or you've been disgusted by him,
Mhm.
but you also need to know he's loved and
Mhm.
he's cared about,
Absolutely.
and we don't want that for him, but this is what we're dealing with."
I think there is so much ignorance in the world as it relates to addiction and mental health. I mean, both. People want to see things one way and no one wants to acknowledge.
Somebody else's problem.
Absolutely, and it's not
And
happening
I
here.
didn't let them look at it that way here in this community.
I love that.
I wouldn't let I said, I am the mother in this community," and I said,
It's everybody's
right.
problem. It's a
And that freed me that day. I'll be honest with you, that freed me. I couldn't hide it anymore. I
I
couldn't
love that.
pretend it wasn't happening. And this is a small community down here, so when they seen me,
They knew.
that's that woman that said that.
Uh-huh.
I put a little bit of a mark on my back. I know that. But when Stephen later passed, I was a grieving mother that they couldn't deny because I had been honest about what happened. And I then created a platform where I stood on the rooftop and screamed because you can't hurt me with it anymore.
Right.
You cannot do any more damage than it's already been done.
Right.
So I will create a safe place for other mothers that are standing in the shadows of shame and embarrassment so that they're not standing by themselves. Because I stood by myself for 25 years.
Absolutely.
Nobody stood with me.
Well, and there's a very narrow path, for the people that are affected by addiction, and I don't take away from the things that are available, but it's just a very narrow path.
There's
There's
very
not a
little
lot.
resources.
Correct.